It's time for more book reviews! Unfortunately, this is another video of book reviews of school books, but after this we got on to more interesting things, so although I would much rather do next video's books right now, I'm going to bear with it and do these 3 books, and then hopefully you'll bear with me and we can move on to my summer reading, which is what happens after these 3. First we have En el tiempo de las mariposas, or In the Time of the Butterflies by Julia Alvarez. I don't speak Spanish. This book is really interesting. It was the only fiction book we read in our AP Lang class, but the thing about it is that it's kind of fiction and kind of not fiction, as in all of the characters are really real-life people who existed, and all of these things actually happened to her. She just kind of filled in the gaps with, you know, what was going on in their heads and what they said to each other during the day, and maybe a few anecdotes here and there. But all of it was true, but it was written in novel form, which I really liked. It's about the Dominican Republic and during Trujillo's dictatorship, which is something I knew literally nothing about beforehand. I am way more into novels than nonfiction, so I really enjoyed this way of getting to learn about history. There's a quote that Alvarez says at the end of the book that I think is really powerful, and it's kind of the reason that I think reading is so important, especially reading fiction. A novel is not, after all, a historical document, but a way to travel through the human heart. And I think knowing the facts of history is really important, but I think it's even more important to know how those people felt and to be able to empathize with them and put yourself in their place so that bad things don't repeat and that good things do. And that's why I think novels are so important, and this was definitely a good example of that. The storytelling in this book is kind of different because each chapter is a different character's point of view, and I know, like, there are other books like that, obviously, but there are 4 sisters, and they kind of rotate through who is telling the story, and it starts from when they're, like, kids and goes up to when they're in their 20s, so it takes place over a long amount of time, and it's really, really interesting to get to know the different characters. I got really confused at first trying to get all of the sisters straight, but you get used to it, and it makes the storytelling a lot more interesting, and then the book a lot more interesting too. Thumbs up. The next book is called Everything's an Argument. It's a stupid little textbook for AP Lang that told me a bunch of things I already knew, and that's all I'm going to say about it because it was stupid and little. And then we have A Call to Discernment in Troubled Times, which is another spiritual book. It's about Ignatius of Loyola's spirituality and, like, the Jesuit thinking and stuff, and that's the kind of spirituality that is the most interesting to me and most relatable. I find it really inspiring, and I really liked reading about this. I mean, it's not the most interesting book in the world, but the topic is interesting for me, so I liked it. The last book in this video is Oscar et la Dame Rose, or Oscar and the Pink Lady, I guess? I've never really thought about it in English. We read it in my French 4 class. It's about this little boy who is sick in the hospital. It's about God, kind of. It's about this little boy named Oscar and La Dame Rose, who is a volunteer woman who always wears pink and helps him. The premise is that he knows he's not going to live his entire life, so he's going to pretend to grow older. So every day he's like, now I'm 10, and then the next day he's like, now I'm 20. So it's cute and funny and sad, but it's also French. I haven't read the English translation, or if there is one, I don't even know. But yeah, it's cute, fine. But spoiler alert, he dies at the end.